Hello. First of all, I'm happy that again we have this event now in person here in Gothenburg. And today I will talk about two main important themes, sustainability and data-driven PLM. So let's first start with data-driven PLM. I think for years we are now struggling with getting digitalization to work for our company. And as discussed before, one of the main topics and problems is the legacy of data, but also the legacy of people, the legacy of processes, and the legacy of tools. And how to get to a new data-driven model-based environment is one of the topics we take care of. Then we have the human side, we have sustainability. At this moment we discover that we are reaching the limits of our planet and we have to do something. And how? How can we change our legacy behavior and what do we need to be more sustainable? They look like two disconnected problems, but I think there is the perfect storm to make it happen. And please follow me in this episode. When we look at digital transformation, I think around 2008, 2009, it already started with the platform world when we talked about consumer platforms. The uprising of Airbnb, Amazon, and cloud made it possible to have customer-based platforms. And it took almost till 2014 that we really started in our PLM community also to talk about digital transformation. It was, I think, in 2012 when Dassault Systems announced their 3D Experience platform, where you might have think it's a rebranding of PLM. But then came the post from Accenture, Digital PLM, which was an interesting post because they described what would be the impact if PLM could be digitized. And then remember the buzzwords: connected, scalable, intelligent, and rapid. Those are the characteristics why we want to have also digital PLM. And IDC at that moment also said we are really going to the next level. They called it the third platform. And in the conferences of 2014 and 15, we talked with SimData and Gartner about the product innovation platform. And on this slide, you see which domains could be part of a product innovation platform. But the slide I liked the most and used the most still in my day-to-day in discussions with customers is the slide from Mark Halperin at that time at the conference. Mark, more or less on the top, you see the maturity level from each company growing from reactive till in the end orchestrating, and on top you see what are the preferred technologies to implement for such a type of enterprise. And at the bottom you see the growing priority of adopting standards, the more we go from coordinated to connected adaptive technology. It's a pity that Mark is not so often seen anymore at our conferences, because as a Gartner person he was able to connect the business to the IT, but also connect the hype to reality. And what I thank Mark a lot for is that he helped me frame the digital transformation for companies in the PLM domain. Because for me, in simple words, I would say digital transformation is to change your business from coordinated to connected. This is the heart of the digital transformation. And you might say it's a technology-driven transformation. I agree, it's technology that makes it possible, but we have to take care that also the so-called soft parts, human processes and business models all change and can be changed also. So it's not just a technology upgrade, otherwise it would be easy. So what does it mean to be coordinated? Well, this is the traditional PLM statement. The right information at the right time in the right context. And as I said in the past, this information could be delivered in documents or electronic files, where in reality you have your own tool in your discipline, and as long as you produce your deliverable in a format that is shareable for others, it could be a drawing, it could be a step file, it could be a calculation or a database table, then you've done your job in the process. And what is the process? Often the processes are linear processes like new introduction process, a change process, or a type of processes. And once we have created the information, we store it in structures. Traditionally, in the old PLM world, we store the information related to a BOM, a manufacturing BOM, an E-BOM, and even a service BOM. And in those structures we can use for both service, for manufacturing, but also for compliance. And the ultimate modern way of the coordinated approach is also, we say, we even provide a digital thread in our PLM environment, and the PLM environment becomes a system of record. So it's not only the mechanical design that is part of it, but we can also have functional logic parts in the front end connected and provide a full traceability. So for me, the coordinated approach leads to a system of record and the concept of a single source of truth. In the connected way, that's different. Then we are not trying to store information anymore in documents, but we try to store information in data sets. Data sets are pieces of data in a database that make sense together. It can be also a geometrical shape, and those data sets are not designed to be published. They are immediately shareable. And that means you have to find, instead of owners, you have accountable people that are responsible for this type of data set. And as we are working in a connected environment, it doesn't need to be a single database. It can be a federated database, and models and pieces of data can be shared. And when I say models, on top of those data sets, you can run all kind of models. You can have a simulation model, a 3D model for manufacturing, any type of model. But from the other hand, here we see also the necessity of that the data need to be in the right quality. So we need to have a process of data governance. We cannot have inaccurate data. And also the importance of an enterprise architecture is there, because now we need to find where are the data sets that make sense together, and it's really an enterprise architecture framework. Interesting in this context is also the upcoming of the ISO 8000 standard, where ISO 9000 was in the previous century a standard to prove to other companies that you controlled your product quality process, you had processes in place to improve your product. With ISO 8000, it's similar, but now it's not about the product, but it's the data that you are managing with your company. And if we look at this coordinated environment, then we see it's different. It's not only just a system of record, but it's also a system of engagement, because we work in real time with the data. So it's really also for engaging the end users to work connected with different type of systems of engagement. And to give you an illustration of that, this is another famous picture from Mark Halperin. Instead of talking about digital thread, he says the infrastructure could be more a digital web, where each node has various connections, and you see here different type of digital threads going through the digital web. But also somewhere on top of this digital web, you could have a system of engagement, which is the design digital twin. Or you could have the manufacturing digital twin, or even you could have the operational digital twin. All kinds of system engagements run on this connected environment. And then, now we understand the technology. It all depends on us, how fast we make progress. And as I mentioned, the challenge has been in the last 8 years that we don't see so much progress. One of the main reasons at management level, the understanding of what is digitalization and what does it mean for my company is very hard to create enthusiasm. Because what we want in the end as a company, we don't want to be smashed by the digital wave, but we want to enjoy surfing on the digital wave. And here comes the other part. We also talk about digital transformation, but then from the human side we see in 2020 that this joke comes up, that who was responsible for digital transformation in our company, and we said it was COVID-19. I'm not 100% agreeing with this, because what COVID-19 did, at least it brought more digitalization to companies for homework, working remotely, working with suppliers connected, but it didn't change really the core of many companies' businesses. And meanwhile, when we were talking about COVID-19, where we thought it's a big problem, there were also people saying, and it's not a cartoon, that perhaps there is something bigger even coming ahead of us that we are not taking care of. And indeed, I think this summer in most parts of the world, the climate has shown that it is there and it is changing, and it's important that we anticipate to it. When we talked with the PLM Green Alliance in 2018 about sustainability, it was on nobody's agenda. Now it has become a very actual topic. And since it's an actual topic, the main drivers will be done by regulations. People will not change their legacy ways of working because they want to and they have the feeling they must do. No, if there are regulations, we will comply if they make sense. So what we see coming on the regulation side is the greenhouse gas reporting, where companies have to report to the outside world for which carbon emissions they are responsible, both themselves and for the products. We can look at the ESG investment guidance, where we don't only guide our investors into economical reasons, but we also look at environmental and social guidelines. And we will see also a carbon tax. If that is done equally, it will give a fair playground to become more sustainable as all companies. So regulations will, I would say, modify our way of living and also our way we consume products. They might be considered as a threat, but also in the bottom you see European Green Deal. We are investing a lot of money in new ways of working, sustainability. There's a lot of subsidies, projects for that, and also the energy transition is an opportunity for companies to work different, to think about new, different models, because the push is there. Now, let's briefly zoom in on the greenhouse gas protocol, the reporting. So, for those of you who are not familiar with it, very quickly, we have scope 1, 2 and 3, where scope 1 is about the greenhouse gases that you are responsible for as a company, that you emit from your direct energy that you consume. You can also purchase energy, and that is a scope 2 greenhouse gases. And then scope 3 is the real big challenge, because there is your manufacturing process, your transportation of people, also your travel, but also the usage of the products, all is part of scope 3. So how can we influence scope 3? Well, to give you a brief impression, this was a slide from Apple. And if you look, Apple is on scope 1 and scope 2, a very green company. If everything is solar energy and you have your solar panels, you see less than 1% is on scope 1 and scope 2 emissions reported. But where is the big pain? The big pain is in product manufacturing, and the product manufacturing is not in America but in China, and in the product usage, which is of course all around the world where those global emissions are. So if you would cover product manufacturing and product use, we already are on 90% of the emissions. So there is a big interest on how can we optimize or change our manufacturing process, and how can we optimize the usage of our products. And that, if you have been to the conference last year, one of the answers came from Ken Webster, who said, in the future you will own nothing and be happy, because the idea is that product as a service is the future trend. And so manufacturers should get control of the full life cycle by not selling the products anymore, but by delivering the product as a service. And we see many examples of that in this conference. We also see that Volvo is talking about a mobility solution, not about selling cars anymore. So the relation to mobility as a service and this product as a service is the foundation also for the circular economy. Historically, if we put our products in the market, they follow a linear process. From the top, we harvest finite materials, we use renewables, we create parts, products, we manufacture them, then we have them in service, and then at the consumer level, in the end, they are used and then dropped again after use as waste on the planet. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that instead of this linear process, the system doesn't get any leakage, or at least as the minimum of leakage. That means on the hardware side, we must make sure that the product is repairable, and we see laws coming for mandatory repairable products. We see ways how can we prolong our product by make it updatable or upgradable. We look at how can we redistribute or reuse materials of the products, and in the end how can we recycle the materials that we use. That's the right hardware side. And on the other side, on the usage side, we look, can we use renewables that are, I would say, regenerated. And this is the concept of the circular economy. And the big change is for a company that it's not longer the linear process of delivering a product to the market, but once you start, you have much more stakeholders to take care of. Your business model is changing, and it all leads to system thinking. And system thinking is you need to see holistic how your product is created and operating in the field. And then you ask yourself what to do. Well, in 2018 already we saw more or less the answer. This is the famous Boeing diamond presented by Don Farr at that time. And the top level of this diamond is the area of the digital twins. And not a single digital twin, but it's a digital twin for model-based system engineering, for virtual production, for virtual certification, virtual operations, etc. And by working by concepts of virtual twins and matching them to reality, we can first of all do a lot of trade-offs before we commit to the hardware. And then once we have a digital twin of a physical product in operation, then we can also optimize, analyze, and optimize the product in action. And this brings us to the step, how do we explain this to the management? Well, this is an example of a demo that sometimes at the board level gets a lot of attention. Just with a tablet, going into a plant and see all the information of a piece of equipment, and by clicking on it you see the metadata. If you ask yourself, how is this possible? Well, you know it is a prepared demo, because there's no company in the world yet where the connection with the equipment that you see here is completely digital oriented, with reliable data coming from all the sources in an efficient manner. It's a demo, it's a vision, and it takes a long way to go there, because we have to go through digital maturity. We have to understand the concepts of digital twin and PLM. And the good news is that just recently we see white papers and coming from the consultancy firms talking about digital twins, and also you see here a quote from a podcast from McKinsey talking about the key elements of digital transformation. It's digital maturity. You need to have supporting data infrastructures such as PLM and high accessibility for data, a real-time data environment for manufacturing and service. They're talking now about the connected enterprise, and this kind of wording, even PLM, is now mentioned at board level, where in the past PLM was often considered as the tool for engineering. So there is, I would say, more and more visibility at management level that digital twins are necessarily for both sustainability and for digitalization. Although the consultancy firms talk more about business operation than about sustainability at this moment. If we zoom in on the digital transformation and the sustainability dimension, then we see here a lot of topics that require a connected environment. EcoInvent, a database with all kind of greenhouse gas emissions from process, from material properties. The best way is to connect this information to your product design. You have in the future the digital product passport from the European Union, where we can also query the material properties of first batteries, later electronic parts and others. And all these kind of databases create a full network of connected pieces of information that gives you the possibility to assess your product both during design and in operations. And one topic interesting to follow is also the Catena X network, because this is an automotive initiative from the German market, but they're also trying to have a connected and cyber secure network, because if we talk about connection, there is a lot of security issues also to consider. So, as I mentioned before, digital twins to do trade-offs, but also to monitor products in operation, and during manufacturing. But it's common agreed by everyone, 80% of the environmental impact of a product is defined during its design phase. So make sure that you have your trade-off studies done in a virtual world, by simulating, by doing system analysis, before you even go to the physical hardware to implement. And then you can still optimize your manufacturing, analyze your virtual plan to optimize it, and you can also still monitor your product in operation and optimize its behavior or consumptions based on what is still possible within the limits. But it's not only that we do it for the planet. There is still some money to make, and this is a report from the Boston Consultancy Group, where they looked at the shareholder return over the past 10 years, from 2010 to 2020, and you see that the oil and gas and the cement and steel industry are not the best place to put your investment. Maybe with the current war in Ukraine you would have done it, but the long-term benefits are for sure in the big tech or the first or the second generation of green champions. And of course the second generation of green champions is at this moment not yet 10 years in business, but what is sure, for return, shareholder return, you need to go to the first sustainable companies. And the report also talks about what do you do as an incumbent in this industry. Well, you have actually two ways. Either you can reduce your damage. For example, the aerospace industry can change from transmission to hydrogen plane maybe, or electric, or they can have complete new business models that have a different type of positive impact on the environment. And if you don't do it, you might become extinct, because regulations will kill the ones that are not compliant. So to conclude, if I look, for many years we are active with digitalization. We have a technical and a business challenge here, and now suddenly the environment is knocking on our door and creating priorities for us to act. And both of us, we need digital twins. So it's important for those who understand digital twins and the implementation of it to add a sustainability angle to it, and to increase, I would say, the speed of development and understanding of a digital enterprise, a connected enterprise. And with that, I would say this is really our mission. It's a perfect storm to use sustainability as a driver to digitalization, and digitalization needs sustainability. But if we don't act now, then the slide would look like this: digitalization, sustainability, our dream, and every time we would say, oops, a storm. So I thank you for your attention, and I hope you follow us in our mission. Thank you.